So one of my favourite features so far on Serum 2 is the fact that there's a granular generator, because it's one of my favourite ways to do synthesis. So together we're going to make a granular sound. I can't promise it's going to be any good. I'm just going to show you my sort of technique and formula as we design it together and we see what we come up with. But firstly, I also saved myself a default version of Serum 2, so I can click and I can recall default. And here is my default setup. I've got a sine wave at -2, so it's kind of like a sub bass. And then I've also got over here, I've turned the voicing and the mono and legato on, and always on the portamento, and put the portamento up about halfway. The reason for that is so every time I play with a new patch, I can just make a bass line or a lead and play up and down the keyboard and glide around without having to overlap my notes and create chords, because usually I don't want to sound design chords. I normally just want one note. And also I put the randomization onto 0 on all of the oscillators. Okay, so all of the oscillators randomizer onto 0, so that every time I hit the note it's going to be the same. So that's just my default setup. Now let's talk about the granular generator. So we're going to click on granular, which is wonderful, and then there's actually a bunch of granular samples that comes in Serum, which is great. But how I'm going to play it is over here you've got different modes for the granular, and if I click on manual, that's great. It'll just pick a point in the sample and it'll start to loop it, right? And then what I can do is I can move the position around to see where I want that to happen, and then I can control the length of the grains. I can make something a bit slower if I want. Or faster. But what I'm going to do straight away is I'm going to turn the level off, and I'm going to frequency modulate it into the sine wave, into the lower pitched sine wave. You can do it two ways. You can do it with the FM, which is going to be more aggressive usually. Or you can do it with the phase distortion, which is also like a type of FM, but it's different, right? And that's going to be usually softer. So it depends on what sound you're feeding into it, but I'd probably go for PD most of the time. And then again here, like, I can change the start position, and then I can also flick the length around, and I can create like rhythms using the length. So maybe we'll do a fast one to begin with, because I can get the fast ones to sound pretty good, like quite easily usually. So what we can do now is we can actually just like flick between the different granular samples that are in Serum 2 already, and just see how it responds with the sine wave. And all the settings are still going to be set up here. And you can just keep going until something strikes. Maybe that one's not too bad. Okay, so that one's not too bad. Then what I can do next is I can click here on warp mode, and it gives me all the options that a normal oscillator has as well. So it's just like that, like the normal part of the oscillator section, which is great because I can then use more effects. So what I can do, for example, is I can feed some noise into the granular sample. Again, you can use FM or PD. I'm going to probably do PD. I think it's a bit better here. So PD from noise, and we could turn the noise off here and just turn it up on the modulation on the FM. And now I might pick the bright white noise here. Turn it down a bit. And now I've got a bit of white noise peppered in on top, and it's following the movement. That's the main thing, you know. So if I slow it down, that's quite nice. I don't feel like it's quite aggressive enough, but I could also put some distortion in here already. We'll try it in both, on the oscillator B and A. Tried a few different modes. So the tube's alright. Also playing with the pitch of the granular sample will create obviously a big change. I quite like it up higher actually. I could play things with a beat here if I want. So we can kind of maybe make something that fits with the drums. Get the length kind of tuned in. Okay, so tuned that in so it's kind of fitting with the beat a bit. And then let's see if we can add some more distortion to this first oscillator and see if that sounds any better as well. Give or take, give or take. Take it or leave it, I should say. Let's keep going. Not super amazing like this in this moment, but another thing that sometimes works quite nicely is to FM a bit of the sub oscillator into this one as well. So let's turn the level off on this one. Maybe turn the octaves down to 2 as well. So a bit of extra padding there. Sometimes works quite nicely. We can try a bit of unison on this one as well. Okay, let's just adjust this position here. So we got a nice little wob going, and bear in mind, I'm just making it up as I go along here, so, you know, if you follow a similar formula, you might get something a lot better than this, right? But let's say we got that pop in. Let's head over to the effects. My second favourite feature on Serum 2 is probably still the splitter, and the fact that I can distort just the high end. So let's just distort the whole high end on this sound and see what happens. It always sounds different every time, you know? So let's try a few different modes. I quite like the rectify. Let's leave that on. I think that'll sound better with the beat. Alright, and obviously I can go back and I can tweak the granular thing. I could even try changing the sample again if I want to, if I get bored of it. So I've messed around a bit more with just some different ideas for samples, and I chose here the upright bass, and I've slowed it down a little bit. All the rest of the settings are still the same. And that's a bit heavier and more funky for me, you know? Oh, that's nasty actually with the unison turned off. It's kind of, sometimes the unison can be great to add that width, but sometimes when you put it back to 0 again, put it back to one voice, sometimes you unlock more power, and that actually the tonality can be better as well sometimes. In this case, I'm going to leave it back on 1 here. And that is a fat one now. I actually am so happy that I accidentally made that, because it's one of my favourite ones I've made so far. Okay, so then to really enhance it, I could do a little bit of notch filtering, for example. That's one of my favourite things to do. I like that you can scroll on the filters with the mouse wheel, so I'll just scroll up to notch. I've driven that way too hard. And here I could try to match the rhythms with the LFO, or I could just do a separate rhythm. I could have like a slower sweeping kind of thing going on here. I can mix that in a bit so it's not the whole way as well. I'm just trying to like give a bit more power to the sound and shape it a bit. Let's solo that again for a moment. There you go. The noise is a little bit too much for me now. If I go back, maybe it's because of this distortion here. Yeah, need a bit less on that. The position that you split the frequencies is obviously important as well. We're getting closer. The speed, obviously, all the kind of movements coming from the length of the grains, so I've got to change that because it was going out of time a bit. This is kind of almost in time there. It doesn't have to be perfect for this tutorial anyway. That's pretty close. You get the idea anyway. That's basically how I'd use the granular generator. Could do a couple more things to finish. A bit of maybe a bit of chorus. Perhaps we could do a touch of hyperdimension if that works. It's got quite a lot of crunch on this sound. It's actually coming also from the actual. I think it's coming. So it's sort of baked into the granular sample a bit here. Even without the noise, you've still got this. A little bit more controlled. There we go. It's a bit more weighty now, I'd say. It's a bit rounder in the low end. But I could really tweak this around for a while until I'm really perfectly happy with the bass, you know. I just wanted to give you an example of how I would use the granular generator as an example. I could finish off maybe with a bit of convolver. Again, I'm really liking this setting here, the digital gated on the short. That works beautifully on this one. It doesn't work on every single patch, but on this one it's working great. I could do a bit more filtering again if I wanted to, or perhaps I could just do a touch of EQing. Just have a look here. You can click in the center to open up the analyzer, and then yeah, have a little scoop around. Maybe we could even boost somewhere. Yeah, it's quite nice, sort of around 1 or 1.5K, little boost. Yeah, pretty basic still. I could definitely go a bit more, yeah, do some more fine tuning, but I want to stop the tutorial there because I want to keep the video relatively short. but it's definitely one to save and finish up later. It almost feels like, also maybe it's like a rhino. It's quite a big round bottom kind of bass. Rhino, no, not Rhino Ninja. Sorry, let me just think of a cool name. Rhino Flex, no, not Flex. Rhino Attack. Rhino Attack? No, I got to think of something cooler. Come on, Artifact. You can think of a better name. Rhino. Rhino Lizard. No, don't say lizard. That's a different animal. You need something. I know. We need a descriptive word. Impolite rhino. Yes, you impolite rhino. Be more polite, okay? Okay, but super easy. Just using 2 oscillators, really. I did use a bit of the sub, but you basically can't hear it, and it's just FMing into oscillator A. But basically, I'm just combining a granular sample, running it through a sine wave, and then controlling the position and the length to create the movement. Yeah, running that through with the phase distortion into the sine wave. And then, yeah, bit of filtering, bit of distortion, that kind of stuff. You saw what I did. But yeah, that's one of my favourite... That is my favourite thing so far about Serum 2, is the fact that you can do some granular kind of FM stuff now, which is what I've always done quite heavily in my phase plant patches, you know. So it's cool that I can try that out in Serum now and see what kind of different results I can get. All right, so that's it from me today. Hope you learned a little bit about sound design. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much for all your support on the channel. May I remind you as well, if you want any presets, I've got loads of Vital presets and phase plant presets up on my website. Perhaps some Serum ones coming in the near future. And also, if you want any mastering work done, email me at info@artifactmusic.com. And for production lessons, links are down below as well. All right, that's it from me today. More from me soon. Much love.